most common question you guys ask me on stream, and sometimes even in YouTube comments, is why is my Dota 2 cursor so gosh darn big? And the answer to that is very simple. It is because I can't see anything about my cursor anyways. Anything pertaining to my cursor is invisible to me unless it is on exactly 300% upscaled. And I'd probably even upscale this higher if I could. It says if the cursor scale percent launch option is used, it overwrites cursor settings. Cursor scale. The coordinator's being updated. Might be having a crown fold part 3. Yeah. Can I scale this to 4? I can. You bet your ass off. I can even make the cursor bigger. I think I would play with the cursor this big if I was not if I wasn't convinced that you guys would like hunt me down somewhere. I think I'd play. In fact, I'm probably gonna try it. Okay, come at me, guys. I'm playing with the cursor this big. Can I scale it even larger? Oh, you bet your ass off I can. Dude, here it is at 5 times the percent it normally is at. Does this piss you guys off yet? I hope it doesn't. Genuinely, I do not do this for anybody other than myself. I promise you, it probably seems like a troll. I just can't see the cursor. It's as simple as that. It doesn't get in the way for me. If it gets in the way for you, I'm sorry. I feel like it impacts me the most when I'm playing a lot of micro heroes. For instance, like when I'm playing Brew. It's beneficial for me to have a big cursor, and I could even upscale this further because the most recent patch downscaled it back to 300%. I guess I have to do this every single time. So if I just go like this, scale percent, and then I go to like 4. Having a bigger cursor is helpful for me when I'm microing like the pandas and stuff and I want to split them up. Like I can grab them more easily with a bigger cursor. It just feels easier to, it feels more like StarCraft 2 if you know that game or play that game, where in StarCraft 2 I feel like the cursor when you're trying to do fine micro with like a bunch of small, when you're just microing like, you know, units that are close to each other and they're kind of clumped up, the cursor in that game feels so much more adept at grabbing individual units, and I can mirror that in Dota by just making my cursor really big. It feels like the cursor has a bigger like hitbox or like ridicule for the units it'll grab, so it's much easier to just click on a unit and grab and push them in directions, whereas if the cursor is super small, like if I set this to like even like, can I do 0.5? Yeah, I can. If I have a super small cursor and then I like, I don't know, let's test it. I don't know, it's just like it's so easy for me to like lose track of where it is, and like I can't click the things. So anyways, there you go. That's how you reduce your cursor size, by the way. For me, it just helps me see where my cursor is on the screen. Probably doesn't seem too reasonable to you, but again, the fact of the matter is I just can't see the cursor anywhere unless it's huge, and that's the truth. And again, if that is distracting to you, or if that in any way, shape, or form upsets you, I understand. It's
but
a
it's a
reasonable thing
legitimate
to be
people
off-put
raise
about
issues
because it is weird. I don't think I've ever seen anybody play with their cursor this big before. So it is certainly off-putting, you know, by definition. But it is also necessary, and that's my point. So even if you don't like it, and I understand if you don't, it is weird. It is. It may appear unnecessary, but I promise you it is anything but that. And yeah, I just need it this big, man. I'm sorry. I can't see without it. And I'm not trying to whine, actually. I probably sound like I have a whiny voice, but I actually want to open this, I guess, this up to a discussion about accessibility in Dota 2. So as you can see here, I've loaded in some allies, some friends, and some foes that have some pretty impactful team fight abilities that have the exact same color no matter what side you're on, friend or foe. And I just think that's a darn shame, because Dota is one of those games that can get very complicated sometimes in the middle of a team fight. As you can imagine, you know, abilities like, you know, Ice Path and Macropyre and Black Hole, these are abilities that, in my opinion, and I know it's going to sound a little wonky or maybe newbie, but like these should really be color-coded, okay? I feel like Dota can become so much more accessible as a game for players, maybe like myself. You know, I'm undoubtedly speaking from a bit of a biased perspective, but Dota could become so much more accessible for so many people if just some very simple quality of life features were added to the game that made abilities such as this more controllable. They gave us the ability to have like colorblind mode affect those abilities. For instance, colorblind mode. Do we all remember this? Some people play with this on by default. I know that it's like an eyesore to some, and then for other people it is a saving grace that literally enables them to play Dota. Why doesn't colorblind mode color code ally abilities or enemy abilities, you know? Again, these are very impactful abilities that in the middle of a hectic team fight, it can become difficult, or I can, in some cases, even lose track of, you know, what's right and what's wrong. And maybe that's a skill issue. Some people would certainly argue that. They would say, hey, if you're forgetting or losing track or whatever, you know, if a hectic team fight is causing you to lose track of what's what, that's your problem, and that's a skill issue that you need to work on. Some people can say that and will say that undoubtedly, and I'm receptive to that criticism. Like, that might be the case, right? Maybe that is Valve's perspective on it. But if that's not Valve's perspective, if Valve sees this, or if competitive players see this as like an unnecessary hindrance to some players' ability to just get into the game and enjoy it at the highest level, like I do, then I would appreciate, you know, maybe some accessibility options that could color code abilities even as well. But for now, I just have to deal with my cursor being whatever size I want it to be at. If I want it to be 4 times the regular size, I can, just so that I can play the game better. That's all it is. And there's nothing more to it than that. I love you all. And I have a more interesting video that's not focused on why my cursor is so bad, or big, rather, planned for you next. Yeah, look at this. We literally have Crownfall in real time getting added to the game. Wired brings you guys the new patch. Look at that. Santa Claus over here.